Hey everybody, welcome to those of you who have been hanging with me some time, and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I'm Adele Levine, intuitive and medium. All right guys, thanks for putting out some questions as I asked you guys an important question here on YouTube and on Instagram. And that question is, what did you want to know about what I've learned from the dead? And I just want to kind of stop and explain this video because I have 3 videos on what happens to us after we died. You can see, okay, that you can go to 1 and then follow part 2, part 3 on my channel. And that is a completely different thing than what I'm doing here today. I even put the picture of my cover of my book, which is Peering into the Narrow Room, a non-guide to the other side. Now that book I have, you know, is about the other side, but much, much more. And a lot of those questions are answered as well. Kind of more about what is it like for people when they pass and things like this. But this video is about what I've learned from the dead, what I've learned from them, what they have learned. So a lot of the questions people had on my Instagram, a lot of the questions that people had on my on here on YouTube that I put in the community page, a lot of those questions I have answered. So I'm going to take I'm going to turn a different direction into clarifying what I mean. So the difference between like what happens to us when we die, like, you know, what do we see, what do we experience and things like this is different than when the dead has told me, you know, what I've, you know, learned since I've passed is different. When I do medium readings, I always have the spirit talk to me from who they were as you knew them to be. Okay, so kind of go with me on this. So if someone comes in, let's say they're your grandmother or friend, and they're all peaceful and all zen-y and things like this, and you're like, that doesn't sound like them. They were kind of feisty and, you know, a little bit rough around the edges, you wouldn't recognize them. So they will talk to me in the way that you remember them, their personality, who they were. Now, the core of who they are is still the core of who they are. The core of who they are is staying the same. But learning some things about themselves, maybe some lessons that they didn't learn on this earth, like, oh, wow, maybe I should have listen to things more, or this or that. That is different. So they will often show me how you knew them so that we can confirm it's them, and then they'll show me what they learned. That is kind of what I cover in my book, and that is what I covered on those other videos. But this is what I've learned from the dead, what they have taught me, like things they have taught me actually. So I'm going to go over a few of them. Obviously, I can do more than one video. So grab your favorite mug or wine and let's get started. Okay. Did you get it? Okay. All right. So one of the most important things that I have gotten, and this is a question people ask a lot, that people who are extremely religious when they were here on this earth, people who followed religion to an extreme and who have thought that, okay, when they die, there's going to be somebody there at the gate, you know, taking your name and checking you twice like Santa Claus. And maybe you're getting sent to hell, or maybe you're getting sent to heaven, or maybe you're just in purgatory. And people who also have had other types of religious beliefs that are all variety of things of what they expected to be. Most of the time, people don't really need to get into their specifics of their religious belief, but what I've learned from them is that they are shocked that there is no perfect order like they had been taught. Like if you did this, 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 then you will have this, this, this. If you do this, 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 and then this is what's waiting for you. What they're surprised about most of the time is how much compassion and empathy and love and acceptance, and that it's really up to us. That is one of the top things I've learned. It is up to us if we're going to learn and grow and evolve. And they very much kind of talk about this a lot, pretty much every reading, that they had no idea that they were going to be able to be conscious. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people who are like, yeah, I was someone who kind of believed in this sort of thing, and I kind of was open to this when I was alive. And so the fact that this is what's waiting for me, I'm not too surprised. But they mostly want people to always know, like, you know what, all of this division we have with each other over who's right and who's wrong, once you pass, it's really not about that. It is about the fact that, you know, it is up to you to choose what you want to come to understand and learn and grow. So I would say what they have taught me is to be more conscious of who you are and how you're growing and how you're evolving. In whichever way you choose is not as important on debating who's right and who's wrong. Many times they feel like, why did I waste my time on feeling like I had to be perfect, or I had to, I'm not saying they're like, I should have just, you know, partied it up and danced on more tables. I mean, maybe. But what I'm saying is that they're saying, like, I was being judgmental, and I was, you know, I sometimes, you know, didn't talk to this person because they didn't live to my beliefs. And I don't know why I did that to myself. I limited my life. Okay, that's one thing. Another thing that the dead have taught me is about relationships and how important relationships here are on earth. What I mean by that is that we see relationships, and I'm talking about all kinds of relationships, friendships, romantic, family, and we see relationships about what is someone doing for us, how are they helping our life, how they are, you know, making us feel better. And what they learn when they pass is that they go into a world where not into a world, they go into a place where they can see their life and they can see it through your eyes. So let's say your mom, your dad, your friend, they see how you felt around them and what you experienced. And so they kind of get an awakening of, wow, I didn't really do that. I didn't really take the time to really understand that the relationships I'm having, and even casual, even just talking to someone for a day, the domino effect of how much we're affecting each other. And that is one thing they talk about a lot. Like, I wish I kind of really saw this better about this person. I was so caught up only in my perspective that I didn't really see it from their perspective. And connected to that, what's very important, because this is asked a lot, they are also surprised to find how they just think of someone and they just kind of appear. So in other words, we're very caught up in, like, are they alone? Are they with family? Did they meet up with the family? Because that's how we live here. We live here like we see death, like you get on a plane, you go to Paris, and you hang out there, and that someone better meet you at the airport gate. Otherwise, you're going to be lost and you're not going to have anybody to connect to, and you're just kind of alone roaming around Paris. That's how we see the other side. And it is not the way it is at all. And that's another thing they've taught me. They've taught me the idea that we look at relationships with family as being the utmost important, and that when you die, that's all you want to do is hang out with your family, and that is it. What we consider hanging out, and that is not how it is, because you connect people with thought. And by the way, as I say a few of these things, if you watch the movie Soul, in the movie Soul, they have people just popping up, and it's kind of interesting because that's what I've talked about for a long time. And they also show, like, how you can see your life in that movie as well. But I digress, so let's move forward. Yes, so we get very caught up in, like, oh, did they see grandma and grandpa and this person? And we're very, like, believing they're going to be lost, roaming around looking for that person. That is not how it is. It's just like the internet, but a million times faster, better, obviously in a way we can't imagine. So, on the internet, if you want to connect to someone directly, you connect with someone directly. But if you want to go on the vast variety of the internet and you just want to kind of Google someone or something, it may pop up. It's kind of the idea that it's at your fingertips at any time. So you don't have to be going to someone's house, opening the door, going, hey, are we going to build a house here on the other side and we're all going to hang out? It's not how it works. It's consciousness. It's telepathic communication. So they do talk about, like, don't be so caught up in just expanding your connections only to your family, only having connections to your family. Expand your connections to the world, to others. Think of the world as a whole, because that is what they tend to do there. Yes, they do have those connections. Yes, they can do that anytime they want, but they don't feel alone. And that brings me to one of the most important things. And someone did ask this on I think, on my Instagram. Do people, do they need us? What can we do to help them? Here's the big thing they've taught me. They don't need us. We are the ones that need them. They are not in a physical form. They are not in a physical form like here. They are not blocked by time and space. So that was a question asked too about time. There is no time. That's why it's not like birthdays and things like that are about you. Birthdays and things and anniversaries are about you. They connect to you and you feel them more because you're thinking about them more and you're open to it. But there is no time, there is no space, so they're not limited by these things. So when you're so worried about them and them, they're kind of like, I'm in a place where I am free of all the limitations of life and earth. And it's not to glorify it, it's just a different form of living. So because they have a little broader perspective, they are interested in helping guide us through this world. So yes, everything that's going on here, they're very interested, but I've covered that in many, many videos. So if you're new to my channel, go look at, what is the spirit world doing for us? All my thing about the different 1, 2, 3 parts that I did on what happens to us after we die. I explain all that stuff. But this is things I've learned from them that help us in life, because in life, we tend to be worried about this, not just about when someone dies and wondering about them, but we tend to get caught up in this world. Or sorry, Citric, I have to pause. Yep, you can keep that in because I paused and someone came up. But anyway, we're very caught up about things in this world. So they are, meaning like we think things in that world are the same as this world and we're worried about them and are they okay? When they're like, listen, the curtain has lifted and I see things. Not that they're all knowing, because they're not. They don't become angels. They don't become all knowing. This is not a thing. People think when people pass that suddenly they're all knowing, they understand everything, and they're almost angelic. No. So what that brings me to is one of the things I've learned from that realm is to grow here, to allow yourself to grow. And one of the things they tend to say that they wish they understood more is to live, is to allow themselves to do what they want. Some people are like, I did that in life and I'm not apologetic. Like, I don't feel guilty about it. I just kind of realized maybe I could have thought of things a little differently. So when we're always so caught up in the mundane about what money we're obtaining, what objects we're attaining, it's not the adage of like, you can't, I'm not saying like, oh, you can't take it with you. That's not what they're saying. Of course, ambition is completely fine. They're not saying not to be ambitious. What they're saying is that when you're limiting yourself, what they realize is that sometimes they limited themselves because they were following the crowd. They were following what they had to do, and they wish they were more who they are. And that is one of the most important things I learned from them, is living in your own skin, being true to yourself. Many people express that they wish they were more true to themselves. That is really most of the time what I hear. I wish I knew how to be true to himself. Some people will express, it wasn't the time, times were different. They understand all of that. They're not in regret and, mourning over it. They just are kind of, I wish I kind of pushed myself to be more true to myself instead of living in fear, instead of living in a place where I am just conforming to what is expected of me. So I feel like that's a really big one. People need to know that it's not the things people think. People think that they're sitting there upset about, the ceremony you did after they died, or upset about the house they left. They're not. They're actually more looking at like, wow, there's a lot of me I could have been more true to, and I didn't let myself be because I was afraid, or I didn't feel like people would accept it, or I just didn't want to rock the boat. And that's the big message I get a lot. I hear that a lot. A lot of times people are like, listen, you're worrying too much. It'll be fine. Be true to yourself. And that's another thing with the worrying that we do here, and obsession we do on very tiny things. It is not something that they see in that realm, although they understand it. And again, that's why people kind of tend to glorify the other side of like, oh, once people die, you know, they're like, don't worry about anything. They're not saying that. They understand the mundane world, and they have empathy, and they want to help us attain the things you need to live on earth. And that is the last thing I want to say. What I've learned is that the dead is not disconnected to the understanding of what we need to do on earth. They absolutely get that we're in another dimension where we're limited by time and space and things. And they're in a dimension where they're not limited by time and space or things. So when you're always so worried about them, they're like, you're the ones living in a very limited dimension, not me. So I can help you get the house. I can't magically make it appear. I can't magically make things happen, but I can help guide. And there's so much I can help and guide you to do. And I can help you the career you want. They are not telling you not to care about those things. That is not a thing either. They're just saying, don't worry about me, and saying I'm missing out on those things because I'm living in a whole different realm. So I hope that cleared some things up. I'm sure positive that I will be doing another one. Throw in the comments below any questions you have for the next one, or any comments you might have of maybe, did this help you understand things? Maybe you had this kind of understanding yourself. Who knows? Maybe you've come to this awakening on your own. I am doing a class this Saturday on remote viewing, and remote viewing is about seeing tangible things, places, people, and kind of looking at them. But it is not like a meditation. It's not astral projection, but it's being able to use the third eye to be able to see. And I use it a lot in readings, and we're going to partner up with each other. Of course, it's a virtual class, and it's still open, and there's still tickets for you to get for that. I'm still using the code PEACE during this time because we're still going through times for 50% off of my reading. And of course, the book that I mentioned, you can get on Amazon. And if you did, because a lot of you have messaged you did, please leave a review, because those who are not familiar with my work, it kind of helps them. Thank you guys so much. Listen to yourself, follow no one, listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you guys soon.